You would pay for the damages?
Well, first of all, she didn't approach me with the estimate of her car. Her boyfriend at the time, or her husband at the time, or still the time, came to my door an estimate of $500. And from what I'm hearing now, it's $2,500. So I don't know how that jumped up to that.
I don't know either. Was the original estimate that you had $500?
Yes. It was originally $500 because that was just like a quick look at it.
Whose quick look at it?
The first estimate that we obtained.
Well, if you got a first estimate of $500, why don't I have that?
Because that shop is not open anymore.
There's a big difference between $500 and what you're suing him for, which is $2,500. Would you look up the value of a 2013, what kind of car?
Dodge Challenger.
Dodge Challenger. You have a full view of the car? Rather than just this what you're showing me?
No, I don't have that printed out.
So based upon a 100,000 mile estimate, it's 10,000 to 13,000.
Did you have it fixed? When we hesitate, we have a problem. Do you understand? Did you have it fixed?
No.
Why?
I didn't want my insurance company to pay for it because I didn't want my premiums and monthly costs to go up.
Well, that's a problem. Do you have a deductible?
Yes.
How much is your deductible?
$1,000.
That's what you have insurance for. And the accident was not your fault. Your premium shouldn't go up at all. You better be able to get the car fixed for $1,000 because that's all you're getting from the defendant. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
I'm satisfied I'll get something out of it.
I actually don't remember. It's like a football catch or tackling somebody. It's pretty tough.
Time to get my car fixed.
My shoulder hit that, and I got a big bruise on it after that.
Another case where my father's saying comes in perfectly. Is it more your fault than my fault? Because if so, you take responsibility and accountability, even in an accident, even in something that, like you said, not on purpose, but accidents happen. You have to be responsible for that.
That's why they call it an accident, not an on purpose.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Versus Madewell.
Thank you. Mr. Brumley, how old are you?
I'm 32 years old.
How do you support yourself?
I was unemployment recently, and I'm working for a contractor at the moment.
Unemployment recently, from when to when?
For the last year and a half, I don't have the date, Your Honor, exactly.
When did your unemployment end?
It just recently ended.
What state do you live in?
Oregon.
So party's over, back to work. So for a year and a half, you collected unemployment. How much did you receive every week?
Around
Don't think I would know. I know
it's like
exactly what they put in my bank.
$718 or like $720 a month, or a week.
$720 a week.
Not counting the whole extra, it's $700, because with the COVID, they added an extra $300 to your weekly claim. I made $458 a week until the extra $300 was going on. So during that whole time, it wasn't the whole $7, it was $458. During COVID, they added the extra $300 with the COVID kicker.
Now, you are 32 years old.
Yes.
So prior to collecting unemployment, what kind of work did you do?
I worked for a contractor. I
Doing
replaced water meters for the city and water box contracts in Bend as well.
Now, what were you doing when you met the defendant online?
I wasn't working at the time.
So you were collecting unemployment?
Yes.
Who were you living with?
I was living with my grandma and kind of some friends at the time because I dealt with the breakup, so I was kind of a few different spots.
And you met the defendant online in what month?
That would have been end of February, beginning of March.
Of 2020?
This year.
2021?
Yes.
And the defendant was living in her grandmother's house, in a room.
Yes.
In what month did you move in with her in her room, in her grandmother's house?
Beginning of April. Or end of March, beginning of April. We got together March 23rd in relationship-wise. I was trying to figure out.
And a week later, you moved into her room?
No, not a week later.
2 weeks later?
It was a couple weeks.
3 weeks later?
3 weeks to a month, yes.
3 weeks later?
Yes.
And you stayed there until when?
I didn't technically stay there. I would give her rides to work, and I'd come stay sometimes in the beginning, and then I'd leave. And then after a little bit, she needed a ride to work constantly. And so then I'd be like, okay, I'll give you a ride to work. And then she offered for me to stay there with her. And
What month did she offer to let you come and stay there with her?
April.
April.
Yeah, that'd be like April
Okay.
1st. We'll say that's, yeah, sorry.
April. So in April, you came and stayed with her full time?
No, it was never full time, Your Honor.
Okay.
On the weekends, she'd visit her family. On weekdays, I would give her rides home. And in the beginning, I wouldn't even stay there.
No, I'm talking about when you started to stay there.
Yeah.
You started to stay there long enough, sir, so that you got disgusted with the bed, because that's what most of your lawsuit is about. You say you bought a new bed for her grandma's room, and when she terminated the relationship, you want her to pay for half the bed. So you don't need a new bed unless you're sleeping there. So let's be real. That's what the lawsuit's about.
Lawsuit's about a bed, yes.
A bed.
For the most part, the bed, my clothing, and my belongings,
Well,
yes.
just a second, your belongings, according to you, you were never there. According to you, you didn't stay there. You just drove her to work, and sometimes you
In the
stayed over, and
beginning-
sometimes you didn't.
Your Honor, sorry.
So put on a whole new thinking cap.
Okay.
In what month did you move in there enough so that you wanted to change the bed?
Well, it's kind of a her thing, too. Like, I don't know exactly April, but we wanted to get a bed, and it was just mutual. Like, we wanted to get a bed, we were together, we were trying to, like, move forward. And I have that stated here that, like,
I don't care what you have stated anywhere. I'm going to make this suggestion to you, sir.
yes.
She terminated her relationship with you. I haven't even let her open her mouth yet. I understand why. So my advice to you is, in case you move in with somebody and you don't like the bed again, get twin beds so that you can take one with you. Because she can't cut this bed in half, and she's not paying you for half of it.
Excuse me, Your Honor. She said that she would pay me on here, that she would do that. She's like, you buy the bed, and I will pay you part for that, too, and I have that right here.
I'd love to see it.
And if I may, Your Honor,
No, you may not. Such a blessing. Just tell me when you need money. We're a team. That's not a contract.
well, it says right here, you're getting it with the Amazon card, and she's having me
No,
buy it
she
with
said,
it.
yeah, I'll give you money back, or you just tell me when you need money, baby. We're a team. That's not a
Yeah, that-
contract.
After the situation.
That's
of
not a
this-
contract.
Okay, I understand that with the bed.
Okay, it's not a contract. Contract requires specific terms. If you buy the bed, I will reimburse you for half the bed. Not, yeah, I'll give you money back, or you just tell me when you need money, baby, and we're a team. That's not a contract.
Okay.
Okay, so get twin beds. Now, the next thing comes with a question. When did you move out?
I moved out June 3rd, or no, it was before that. She told me on June 3rd that she was breaking up with me, and that, or no, she was taking care of her grandma and moving states away to deal with that. And I was like, okay with that, which is totally fine. I don't know what's going on. She's been cold turkey for a little bit. Like, I don't know what's going on. She's been super quiet, and so I just didn't understand. And then this happens, I take it as it is. I'm not a heartless person at all. Don't get me wrong.
Just a second.
And
You
then
moved in there, according to you, sometime about the second week in April, part-time. And then you moved in more full-time. But you left on June 3rd. So you were there for the month of May, right?
Actually, we'll say the end of May, because June was when she wrote me and said this stuff, so I
Just a
wasn't even
second.
over there then.
So tell me when you were there.
I'd be there during the weeks sometimes with her when I
And where were you living the time that you weren't
was at
living?
my grandmother's.
Is that where you get mail?
I have a P.O. box. Grandma gets tired of getting my mail, so.
How long have you been staying at your grandmother's? Since this last breakup that you had before her?
It's kind of off and on, but I'm just kind of figuring out my life, Your Honor. I stayed with my grandma a little bit.
You did say you were 32.
I'm 32, Your Honor. Like,
Well, you're a third done, and that's if you're lucky. You better start figuring it out, sir.
I'm not sure exactly what I had, but I have a bag of my clothes on the street.
Just a second. Can I see that photograph?
I actually
Yep.
had that too.
Just,
Sorry.
And later today,
but you signed it, sir.
But I read it earlier, and earlier
Oh.
it's not what you're
Oh,
saying that's
well,
on there.
Would you show
All
it to him
you're
again?
saying is that I'm suing him for just
Quiet.
the video. Oh, go ahead.
Quiet.
Go ahead. Okay.
Don't sound foolish.
Jeremy Brumley claims his former girlfriend, Cheyenne Madewell, owes for a bed and his belongings.
You better start figuring.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
I said you're 32. That means you're a third done. if you're lucky, because not all of us get so lucky to live to be 96. 96, so I'm saying to you, you better start figuring, because the last third isn't as good as the first 2/3. Trust me on that.
Your Honor,
Mr. Brumley,
can I?
Mr. Brumley.
Yes.
Get yourself real, will you please, sir? You don't get the bed. You live there on and off with your grandmother, with whom you don't pay any rent. You live there. You didn't pay any rent or expenses. You live part-time. You live half-time. You live out of your van. You live out of your car. You couch hop with your friends. Okay. Now I want you to tell me what items specifically you allege that she disposed of that were yours in this place that you really don't live in all the time because you're mostly with your grandmother. So tell me what specific items, and I'll see receipts for them.
The best that I could do for receipts was to be able to go to Amazon or Google and look for different items for each item that I had inside her house.
First, try telling me. I don't care what you
I got
take pictures of.
PlayStation games. I have my,
Just a second. Hey,
yeah.
you had a PlayStation there that you brought to her house.
Yeah, and then she changed my network password to her name for no reason because she's controlling.
Where did you get the PlayStation and when?
I bought it offline. The marketplace had probably been a year or so before we got together, so I had it for at least a year.
And how much did you pay for it?
I paid $250.
What did you do with his PlayStation?
I have the evidence right here, Your Honor. I messaged him when I was moving out of my grandmother's house. He was taking 8 showers a day. He was staying home.
Listen to me. I'm not
I had
giving
the
you.
PlayStation
I don't.
still to this day. I asked him to pay me the money that
Just
he
a second.
owed me.
Just a second.
Yes.
So you still have the PlayStation?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. One PlayStation to you. You live in the same state?
Yes.
Great. Do you want him to know your address?
He knows my address, Your Honor.
So what I want you to do is wrap the PlayStation. And he has 5 days on 24 hours notice to you. He's going to pick up the PlayStation. Do you have a porch?
I have the front yard where I actually left his stuff. But yes, I have a porch.
Good. Leave his wrapped PlayStation on the porch.
All right.
Perfect. And that's on 24 hours notice to you.
So when you say 24 hours notice to me, I contact him if he doesn't?
No.
Okay.
He's going to contact you within 5 days
Okay.
of today's date.
All right.
And say, I will be there on the 3rd at 9 a.m.
All right.
Put it out. Make sure it's out there, 9 a.m. Take a photograph of it with the time. Put it out there. If he picks it up, fine. If he doesn't, it's gone.
All righty.
Okay. So that's the PlayStation. What else is there?
There's a bag of my clothes that I had there. I'm not sure
Okay.
exactly what I had, but I have a bag of my clothes out on the street.
Just a second. Can I see that photograph?
I actually have that too, ma'am.
Just
Sorry.
Okay, so this is a bag of clothing that was his, that you put out and that you received. She said to you in this picture, here are your clothes.
Yes, and you have till Friday or Sunday to come get them. And then I told her Sunday I would come there.
Just a second. She sent you a picture of your clothing out in the street.
Yes.
You live in the same town.
No, I don't.
Where did you live?
I live in McMinnville.
And how far is that from where you were living with her?
It's not too far from there.
Not too far. So she sent you a bag, picture, and said, come get your stuff. I don't want this bag of your clothes here anymore. And you didn't go get them.
Yeah, and I have a statement saying to come Friday or Sunday to come get your stuff. And I said, Sunday, can I come get my stuff? And I didn't get a message or anything. I have messages of that too.
Then I would have run over and gotten this
Animosity
garbage
that
bag
was
of
going
stuff.
on, I didn't want to go into a fire right then. You know?
Okay,
I was like,
very,
if I have
very
an option
good.
to Friday or
Okay,
Sunday, I'd like
very
to.
fine, very good. Bed, we finished. Return of value of property, we finished. Your case is dismissed. We're done here. Get a job.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you.
We had a relationship of a month and a half to 2 months. It's not very long,
People aren't who they seem to be when you first meet them.
but also like that's enough for someone to get in to know someone and take advantage of them.
They have a mask over them, and you got to get to know them and watch that mask come off. And once that mask comes off, you're just like, whoa, what is this?
I'm not sure. I got a text message on that, and then this soon after happened.
I was actually really nice about it. I told him that was over, that I was moving out of my grandmother's house. With me moving out, well, obviously you're homeless, so you can't go with me.
I'm gonna save my money and I'm gonna get a way better job. And nobody make $47.50 like that. She ain't.
It's time for me and my daughter, not no man.
Now, Sarah, I know many people, not well, but many people who have met on sort of dating apps and have had long-term relationships with them. Even some got married. You could not tell that by our program.
No.
We don't
It always
have
seems to go south.
Not one successful go-around. Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. You've got to go through a lot of profiles to find one that you could be in a long-term relationship with, I guess.
You know, I would say for most thinking women mostly, 'cause it's usually, that's what we see here, women who end up on the short end of the stick. The first thing that they should have is a job.
Yeah.
That's prerequisite one. You could actually understand why this young man didn't have a job, because he made more not working than he did working, which was a big problem and will continue to be in this country a big problem, but has been over the last year. And that really is a country making babies out of a whole generation of people.
I agree.
Case number 1122, Clark versus Albro. All parties, please step forward.
Rapper Kyrie Clark is suing video director Rashad Albro for the production costs of a music video.
Mr. Albro, you look angry before we start. Put your hands down. Thank you. You may get there, but I haven't started yet. Now, Mr. Clark, it is your claim that the defendant, at your request, made a music video for you, that you paid him, that he, A, didn't deliver it on time, and B, did a less than professional job, which required you to hire someone else to either do it again or to fix it. In any event, what you are requesting is the money that you paid to Mr. Albro and the cost of redoing the video. Mr. Albro says that you were initially satisfied with the video, which he acknowledges that he delivered late. He says that because of personal issues, and he had some, he was delayed by a couple of weeks in getting you the video, but you were satisfied with it and subsequently called him and told him that there were things that were deficient. That the case?
No, that's not the case.
Oh, well, I don't like your attitude, Mr.
I don't
Clark.
care.
So
Okay.
I think your attitude is disrespectful.
And you're not making
so
any
this
sense.
is what,
And
I
read
think
something
your
in 10
attitude is
seconds.
disrespectful.
What sense does that make?
So
You want me to
this
read something in 10 seconds?
So this is what I'm going to do.
Rapper Kyrie Clark claims video director Rashad Albro owes for the production costs of a music video. Kyrie also claims Rashad stole his video concept and used it with a different artist.
The part that you are questioning is the part where he says you told him you were satisfied?
I told him that I was satisfied.
So what is it that I was mistaken in suggesting that your position was?
Okay, so I'm gonna explain, Your Honor.
No, don't explain. Just tell me the one thing that is not correct.
The main issue is that he basically took my original idea that I came up with, and he made sure that his cameraman panned me a certain position so that you couldn't see anything aside from, it goes from my head all the way down to my knees. So you couldn't see any of my props with the original idea that I came up with, which I have documentation as well. And he made sure that it wasn't in my video and he put it in his client's videos.
Mr. Clark, did you trademark or register an idea that you had?
No, I do not, but it is in my notes that I told him the idea of what I wanted.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Is that the only thing that you have issue with, that he used some of your ideas in a second video that he did that had nothing to do with you?
Yes, because he
Okay.
made sure that he didn't put it
Okay.
in my video. I told him the place that we were going to shoot and the concept as well.
What I'm telling you is, unless you do something to trademark an idea, it is really not intellectual property.
Okay.
See, I don't understand, making music videos. What I understand is making parties. So I'm going to bring it to something I understand, and then we're going to get to what is actionable. I have a wonderful guy, and he's been doing parties for me forever. He has outrageous arrangements, food and cakes and cookies, and everything is fulsome and wonderful. And it's really not only a delight to the palate, but it's a delight to see, right? And there was somebody else that I knew, who was a friend of the family, who said, gee, I'd really love to come to see one of the parties set up because maybe I can get an idea or two from what he's doing so that it would help me in my career. I said, you want to come? Come. You can't, because you've envisioned something and you put it out there, you don't hold a right to it. So what you're saying to me is you had certain ideas about how this was going to be portrayed, this music video, you had certain props that were there, and he can say, gee, that was a terrific idea to have a pumpkin, to have a dancing strawberry, to have whatever
You know
it
what?
was.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I really hate to interrupt you, but honestly, your cake story, it is not my story, okay? When I came up with this original idea, let me tell you something. I used to actually live in LA, okay? And when I lived in LA, I was in the street. I got my head sliced open while I sleep on the beach. I got my head cracked by security when I sleep at a restaurant patio. Everything that I went through, that is why I came up with that idea. And that's why I put everything that I just told you about, I put that in my track. That track is 5 minutes long.
Okay.
You feel me?
What I'm telling,
So thank
what
you.
I'm, what
Go
I'm
ahead,
telling
go
you
ahead.
is that your complaint says, I'm suing the defendant, Rashid Albro, in the amount of $1,302.02 for a refund on the video shoot and the cost to fix his work. That's what your complaint says, sir. That's what I'm hearing. Do you understand?
What I put down is that I'm suing for the cost of the video. I'm suing for the $50 for.
Kevin.
Okay.
I just want you to read what I have that you're suing for and what the defendant has been served with. And that, Mr. Clark, is what you are bound to today. Kevin, I'll take that back now.
I didn't read it, but okay.
Well, that's,
I
but
just
Mr. Clark,
slightly looked at it,
Mr.
so, I mean, I
Clark,
don't know why you gave it to
Mr.
me.
Clark, I'm going to take it back now, Kevin.
You got it back.
Mr. Clark, when you file a complaint, a defendant in any court action is then put on notice of what you are suing them for, what they have to defend. He is put on notice now of what you're suing for. And I'm telling you, today, the only thing that I'm hearing is what you put in your complaint.
Which I didn't get to read, by the way.
Well,
so I don't
Mr.
know
Clark,
what it says. I
Mr.
don't know what it says. I
Mr.
don't know what the
Clark,
complaint says.
Mr. Clark, that would be your fault.
How is it my fault? Because it should be in there. But I guess what? I didn't get to read it, so I don't know if it's in there or not. You told me to read it. You want me to read that whole paper in 10 seconds? And then you ask for it back?
No, that's what you signed.
Oh, well, didn't you give it to me to read? Right?
But you signed it, sir.
But I read it earlier, and earlier it's not what you're saying that's on there.
Would you show it
All
to him
you're
again?
saying is that I'm suing him for just the
Quiet!
video. Oh, go ahead.
Quiet!
Go ahead. Okay.
Don't sound foolish.
Oh,
If you
I'm not
signed
sounding
it,
foolish. Who's the real one sounding foolish? You talking about I read it.
No.
You wanted me to read it.
Mr. Clark, either you read this before you signed it.
I did read it, so why did you hand it to me if you wanted me to read it again?
Oh, well, I don't like your attitude, Mr.
I don't
Clark.
care.
So, Mr. Clark, I don't like your attitude.
Okay.
I think your attitude is disrespectful.
And you're not making
So
any
this
sense.
is
You're
what-
telling me to
so
read
this
stuff
is
and
what
you
I
and read
think
stuff in
your
10
attitude is
seconds. What sense does
disrespectful.
that make?
So
You want me to
this
read stuff in 10 seconds?
So this is what I'm going to do.
Go, do what you do.
I am dismissing your case without
Yeah, 'cause I'm not, 'cause
prejudice.
you a hater, and you
take
really
it
are
back
not
to the
intelligent
court
at all.
In which you originally
Guess what,
filed
baby girl?
it.
I really don't
We
care.
are done here.
Court is adjourned.
He messed me over because he stole the original idea that I came up with everything that I've been through in my life.
I'm not sure. Like after the shoot.
So my original idea and made sure that wasn't in my video. Then I paid him a backhand payment super early when I really didn't have to.
He was happy with everything. After he received the video, he was happy with it.
Business associates, I've never met him a day in my life. He said he was a videographer. I seen him on Facebook, and I liked his work.
That I didn't show the props that he wanted shown, and that I didn't deliver on time.
But guess what? I did my part. I did my part. I did my part. The universe know all that. I did my part.
After all the argument and text message, he tried to book me again, and I told him we wasn't doing that. So that's probably what he mad about. That's probably why we're here today.
Sarah, you just saw an example of courtroom television style, because sadly, I don't have the ability to hold somebody in contempt, which I would have done.
We should look into that.
Yeah, which I have done very sparingly over the course of my whole career. But I gave this litigant every opportunity. Back up, let's try again. This is what your case is about. And once you see that someone is an obstructionist, there's only one order in a courtroom, and that order has to come from somebody. If it's not from a judge, it's going to come from a litigant. And once you let a litigant take control of the process, then the process gets all screwed up. Anyway, good luck to him in another forum.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Hello, Judge. Case 1065, Gutierrez versus Galvez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am so confused about this case. And that's not easy. You buy storage containers?
I do storage auctions. So sometimes containers come up with merchandise in them. So then I can
Okay, let's go back. You say that as if I really understand it.
Apologies.
I really don't totally understand it. I've seen storage wars on television once or twice.
Correct. So
Where you go and you bid on something and you don't know what's inside.
Correct.
And then you open it up like a Cracker Jack box.
Correct.
You know what Cracker Jacks are?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, you're older than you look.
Thank you.
Do they still have Cracker Jacks?
I think they do.
Yes, they do. I don't know. They do. Do they still have little prizes inside?
Stickers.
Stickers. Used to have little toys and stuff inside. Anyway, so Storage Wars is like a grown-up version of a Cracker Jack box. You open it up and you pay some money. Now, you buy those at auction.
Correct.
When you buy them at auction, do you already know what's inside?
No.
So you go to a big place where people haven't paid their bills, so they...
Correct. Or sometimes it's homes of family members that pass away and the family doesn't want anything, so they auction the stuff off.
But have they gone inside to look first?
The family has, but we haven't.
So the family knows whether you're buying junk or whether you're buying dead bodies or whether there's something valuable in there.
Correct. But sometimes the families don't take the time to go in there. They just want to sell, they want to sell the land.
They want to sell the land, and these storage containers are on the land?
Correct.
How do you know the plaintiff?
I've met her a while back. I needed somebody to move a container for me that I had sold to
somebody. To move a container?
That I had sold to somebody. That the person that purchased a container for me needed a transport company to move the container. And that's how I met her.
You have a transport company?
Yeah, I do. I move shipping containers, and that's how I met him.
What's the name of your company?
D&J's Transport.
What kind of trucks do you have?
60-foot long dually.
And who drives it for you?
I do.
Personally?
Personally, and I work together as a team with my broker.
How many workers do you have?
Not in my responsibility, just me.
Do you hire people to help you?
Yes.
You bought some containers and an RV or 2 RVs.
Correct, but the auction that I was at, there was people that bought the containers. I didn't buy the containers. They bought the containers, and they were taking the stuff that was inside the containers, and they wanted to sell the containers because it was their responsibility to get rid of them. And since I know Gladys...
Okay, so you didn't buy the containers. No. Mr. A bought the containers. Mr. A didn't want the containers, just what was inside the containers.
Correct.
So Mr. A was supposed to get all the stuff out of the containers.
He was actually supposed to take the container with him too. But he asked me if I knew someone that wanted to buy them, since he knows that I communicate with a lot of people.
On whose land were these containers?
The person passed away from that property, and the niece of that man hired American auctioneers to do the auction of everything that was on the property so that they can clear the property. That's how the containers went up for sale. So buyers come and they all bid each other up, and whoever gets the highest bid takes it.
So you didn't buy anything?
No, I did buy something.
What did you buy?
I bought everything that was outside the containers. So pretty much you had 6 containers on the property, you had motorhomes, you had the contents inside the home. I bought everything that was outside in the yard. There was an air compressor, there was a gold digging machine, there was carburetors, generators, just a bunch of things just all over the place.
So you bought all of this?
For one price.
How much did you spend for all of that stuff?
$500.
And you bought it as one lot?
Correct.
Somebody else was there and bought these 6 containers.
One person bought 4 containers, and another person bought 2 containers.
But they weren't interested in the containers. How big? Give me an idea.
They couldn't move them. They couldn't move them.
They couldn't move them. Why?
They're just so big, and they don't have the transportation mode or where to put them.
So they wanted to just go through the inside of the containers.
Well, if you wanted the stuff in the container, you had to buy the container.
I understand that, but they wanted to just go through the containers.
Take what they want and leave what they didn't.
And they were going to give you the containers?
No, they were. I don't know what they were going to do with them, but I know that Gladys.
No.
Containers.
Listen, you're in this business to make money.
Correct.
So somehow you were going to make money. The nieces got the money from the 2 people that bought the containers.
The nieces,
The nieces got money from the two people that bought the containers. What I'm getting from you is that the two people who bought the containers just wanted the contents of the containers. They said, you know anybody who wants the containers? You say, I know this lady because she buys containers and I know she can move them because she has the equipment to move them. What was your vigorish? What was your vig? What was your payment for making this marriage between the moving company and Mr. A and B? Am I getting that right? Is there something that I'm...
It sounds right to me.
Sounds right.
Does it sound like what he said? Okay. Am I getting that right?
yeah, you got it. You're right on point.
Okay. So I want to know how much money.
Did I make off the deal?
Yes, because you charged her
Correct.
$6,400.
Yes.
Which she sent you for 6 containers and 2 motorhomes or
Correct.
RVs.
Correct.
Of the $6,400, how much can you prove to me that you gave to Mr. A and B, who bought the 4 containers and the 2 containers? So I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I can
Or
only...
did you get everything?
No.
No.
Okay.
Just take a breath. Take a breath. The truth will always be the easiest.
Correct.
Because if these guys wanted the contents, didn't want the containers, part of the deal was they had to get them off the property.
Correct.
Right? And they were going to have to pay somebody to move them off the property, because that was the deal.
Well, they were all going to try to sell them, too, at the same time. We had 2 weeks to get them off the property.
Not we. You had 2 weeks to get your junk
My
off
stuff
the
out of the property. They had 2 weeks to get their stuff off the property, so...
Okay. And you knew you had 2 weeks to get all your
Correct.
compressors and weed whackers and whatever
Correct.
else it was off the property.
Correct.
Did you get your property off?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because when I did the deal with the containers for her, the niece of the owner of the property was really on top of us to get those containers out, to get the containers out, because it was going to cost her money if they left the containers behind. Part of the deal with the auction company, when you bought the stuff, was that you were going to get those containers out or you get banned from the auction company. So it was pressure on everybody to have to move all their stuff.
No, just a second. I'm not interested in the other guys with the 6 containers and the 2 RVs. I'm interested in the stuff that you paid $500 for.
I got a lot of my stuff off.
You were responsible to get that stuff off the property.
Correct.
And you got a lot of it off.
Correct.
I assume you took what was most important to you first.
I tried, but I couldn't get the most important thing. I couldn't get it out of there because of the same thing that I had to find someone who's going to help me transport it because
Well,
it was
that's
big.
nobody's fault but your own.
Correct. That is my fault.
That is your fault.
But that
Just
was
a second. That's your fault.
With all due respect, we're not here to find out if I bought something or I didn't. We're here to let you know that she didn't show up to pick up what she paid for.
No,
It is not my
we're here to
responsibility to
find
pick it up for
out,
her.
sir, whatever I want to find out.
So be it.
That's what we're here to find out.
Again, it's your courtroom.
That's the first thing you got right today.
Gladys Gutierrez claims storage buyer Cesar Galvez is responsible for refunding the cost of shipping containers. Cesar is countersuing, claiming he lost valuable items after Gladys refused to pick up her containers.
You have a counterclaim for $10,000 because you say that because she didn't get the containers off, if I'm reading this right, because she didn't get her containers off the property in time, you couldn't get your $500 worth of junk off the property, and therefore you're suing her for $10,000.
Well, I just said I couldn't get my $500 worth of junk off of there. I'm
So,
saying that I
do you
wasn't able to
understand-
remove my stuff that was being blocked by her container.
No, your stuff, according to you, I am right, he said his stuff was all the stuff outside the containers.
Outside.
Do you understand?
Yeah, you're correct. You're right.
Right. And there was nothing preventing you from going in and taking out the stuff that you wanted.
There is when the containers are in the way of the property.
No.
So, would you like me to let you know how the containers were?
Show me that the containers were in the way of the stuff outside the containers. You have a picture of that?
The closest
Because
I
you
can
took
get
out,
to...
because you took out a lot of the stuff, according to you.
I did.
You did. and you only paid $500 for all of it.
That's
Just a
beside the
second.
point.
It is the point. You're in a
It's
court.
besides the
What do you
point.
mean it's not the point?
It's
Of
not
course
how much
it's a
I paid
point.
for it. It's how much value I have of the stuff that I was going to make my money on. It prevented me from making my money.
You're ridiculous, sir. You paid $500 for it.
It
According to
doesn't
you,
matter
you
how much
got
I
off
paid
a
for it.
lot of your stuff, and you're suing her for $10,000. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds to me? Do you know how ridiculous it is?
It does when it's not your money.
Just a second. Do you know how ridiculous it is?
It can sound different
Just
to everybody.
what you're saying to me, I mean, you may be able to get over on your wife, your mother, somebody else with that nonsense, but you're not getting over on me. You paid $500 for a whole load of junk. According to you, you went and you got most of it out of there.
I never said most. I said I got a lot of it.
And you're suing her for $10,000 because she didn't get the containers off. You couldn't get your property off. And all I said to you is, I want to see a picture
Well, I don't
of
have
her
a picture of that.
containers blocking anything that you bought.
The closest you got to is everything's behind these containers. So that's the closest I can get to you.
Could I have that, please? What? This is a junkyard.
To your eyes.
But just a second. All right, so I've just disposed of your counterclaim. That's done. Now we're going to get to your claim, because he still hasn't answered my question. He's done a lot of talking, but he hasn't answered my question. What was your vigorish from Misters A and B who bought the containers for you putting together a marriage to get the containers off the property?
I made $200 per container.
Do you have any proof of that?
I have a witness here who purchased 2 containers himself.
Just a second.
Okay.
Your last name, please.
Hernandez?
You're not in business together, is that right?
No.
What is your business?
Well, I bought his stores too, but separately than him.
What do you do with them?
I sell the stuff at the swap meet.
So you sell the stuff that's inside,
Yes.
not the containers themselves. Okay, so you pick out what you think is valuable that you can sell.
Correct.
And where do you keep it?
I keep it in the storage. I rent the storage.
And you've renting that storage unit for a long time?
Actually, not anymore. I just get rid of it.
You got rid of it?
Yes.
Take your hands out of your pockets. I think better with your hands out of your pockets.
Okay.
You think this is going to be easy?
I don't think so.
Good. So you got rid of that private storage. Why?
Because I don't have much merchandise inside there. I don't need to be paid for the storage no more.
So you're not selling it
I'm
swamp?
still selling.
You're still selling stuff?
Yes.
Well, where do you keep the stuff that you
In
sell?
my truck.
What kind of a truck do you have?
I have a 14-foot of 4.
Okay, so you have a big truck
Like a
where you
U-Haul,
keep your
yes.
merchandise.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
What were you doing buying 2 of these huge storage containers? Think. I want you to think about what you just testified, that you keep all your merchandise in your truck and you sell the inside that's in the inside of these containers.
Correct.
That you go at swap meets, flea markets.
Yes.
These are very big storage containers.
I understand.
So you didn't want the container.
No, I don't.
Right. How much did you pay for the 2 containers?
I pay $250 for each one.
And was there a lot of stuff in each one?
Yes.
Good stuff?
A lot of junk.
A lot of junk? Anything valuable?
Not really.
So what did you do with all the stuff?
Some of the stuff I put in my truck and take it to the Swami. Like I went like twice.
Okay. And what'd you do with the stuff if there was a lot of junk that you didn't want? You wouldn't put that in your truck.
Left it in there.
You left it in the
container, yes.
in the container.
That's correct.
You left them in the 2 containers.
Yes.
Now you paid $250 for each container.
That's correct.
How much did you pay him?
Pay who? I don't pay anything.
How much did he give you?
He gave me $500 for both.
Him. How did he make money from your 2 containers?
He sold it to her.
So you sold him the containers for $250 a piece?
Yes.
Sit down. How much did you make on the 2 containers?
I made $200 on each container when I sold them.
You sold her 6 containers.
Correct. That she never picked up or
Just
never
a
went to
second.
go see.
Stop! You sold her 6 containers. In addition to the 6 containers, there were 2 RVs.
Correct.
Were they also on the property?
Correct.
Were those things that you had bought or somebody else bought?
Those were things
The
that
two RVs.
they belong to the owner, or to the niece.
Area, it wasn't clear. It was a lot of things.
May I
Like,
see it,
he
please?
couldn't even walk. Oh, the pictures. All the pictures are there. I got it from the drivers.
These are the pictures of the two RVs.
Yes, just but it wasn't clean.
It wasn't cleared out.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's what he said.
That's why they couldn't. They charged me for the trip, but it was just a empty run.
Did you have a discussion with him when you made this deal
Yes,
with him?
I called him right away.
No.
Oh.
When you made the deal with him,
Okay.
is this the first time you ever made a deal with him?
No, this is my second purchase. He sold me 2 storage container before.
Why would you send him money without seeing these? I'm looking at.
He sent me a video. I had the video
He sent you a video
Yes.
before you sent him the money.
before sending the money. Yes.
I'd like to see the video.
Okay.
This mesh is the one that we'll have to remove. This will have to throw away. So we have to throw away this mesh here so that your trailer comes in through here. That there we have to remove so that it's better to see. Otherwise, I don't know. But we have, excuse me guys, all this will be moved so that you can come in. This will be the first container that you'll take.
Just a sec. When you saw this, it looked like a whole bunch of junk. Did you send her that video?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, Miss Gutierrez, that looks like a whole bunch of junk. It looks like a whole bunch of junk. I wouldn't spend $6,000 on that. A reasonable person would not invest $6,000 in a bunch of junk.
I didn't care about the stuff. I just care about the boxes because for me, the way it seems, it's worth the money that I paid, but empty.
He acknowledges that he sent this video before you made the transaction. What I saw is a whole bunch of junk.
Yeah, and on the video, I just was watching the shipping container.
Okay, I don't care what you were watching, madam. It wasn't a smart business deal.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Now, he was the man who bought 2 containers.
Correct.
She gave you $6,400. The RVs are worthless. Let's say she gave you $6,000 for the 4 containers.
6 containers.
6 containers. He says he got his money out, $500. What's the name of the person to whom you say you gave money for the other 4 containers?
I don't have that name with me.
I want to know who you gave the money to.
With the guy that bought it, but I don't know him personally. He bought him that day. I met him that day when the auction.
Well, but you didn't have the money then, sir, because you didn't have the money until she sent you the money.
Correct.
You had, well, she didn't send you the money on the date of the auction, which was February 23rd.
Yeah, that's when everything was sold, but not to her.
I understand that.
Correct.
So I want to know what you did with the $6,000, who you gave it to. I already know about him. You got $500, right?
Yes.
From whom?
Sí, sir.
From him. So he gave you $500 for 2 containers that you left a whole bunch of stuff in.
Yes.
Right. So now you have 4 containers left.
Correct.
And you said you made $200 per container.
That's correct.
That's what you said.
Correct.
So I'm taking off his $500. That leaves $5,500. So I'm going to take off from the $5,500, $800. Now you're going to tell me who you gave that money to.
Again, I can't tell you who it is
Just a
because I
second.
just met him that
How
day.
much? You're going to tell me how much money? How much money? I mean, they bought them. Right now, there's about $4,000 floating around, and I don't know who has it. So far, you didn't spend any money except for the $500 for everything around. That still leaves us $5,500 for the 4 containers.
Okay, so I charged $200 per container. So I would put $800 in my pocket from those containers. So the balance of that would go to the man that I met at the auction.
You didn't give it to him on the day of the auction.
No, I didn't.
No, because you didn't
I did it
have
when she sent me the money.
When she sent you the transfer.
That's when I did the
Which
deal.
was on, when she sent you the transfer, which was on March 4th, and she sent it through a bank account. So you got it into a PayPal or a Vimo or whatever they call it, you know, hocus pocus, which I don't understand.
And the 2,200, I work in his business and give it to him in person, cash. But I take it from my bank account.
Really?
Yeah, I took it from.
Just a second. Explain to me why you would go to give him $2,200 on March 10th.
Because he called me and said, hey, you need to pay for the RVs before you get them.
You know something? I'm not believing you. You want to know why? Because this delivery receipt is dated March 10th, which is the same day that you sent your guys there to pick up the stuff. Well, why in the world would you pay him $2,200 in cash?
After, when I give him the money, when they call me and say, not even the RVs are worth it, I call him again and I say, hey, I need my money that I just give you right now. And he was like, oh, come and get it.
She made a bad deal. She made a bad deal. She's a businesswoman. She should have known better. You made a deal to buy 6 containers. There's nothing in here that says that the 6 containers have to be empty and ready to go. You made a bad deal. But it seems to me, as a smart business person, you don't buy things that look like junk and spend $6,400 on it. You don't look like that kind of lady to me. I'm dismissing your case. You counterclaim I dealt with a long time ago. It's full of baloney. We're done here.
Court is adjourned.
What? I feel like I did a very, very bad purchase.
I sold her containers. She didn't pick them up.
He promised me that he's gonna clean everything and empty the containers, and the containers are still with a lot of stuff inside.
You know, sometimes people show up to a work site, they see the work and it's too much and they don't want to do it.
Actually, that case was almost as confusing to me when I finished it as when I began. The only thing that was a takeaway for me was that the defendant had lots of side hustles and paid $500 for a whole lot of stuff that looked like junk. For that, he had a counterclaim for $10,000 because one man's trash is another man's treasure, I guess. So that was clearly a hustle. And I actually had real problems, Sarah, believing that a smart businesswoman like this is would separate herself from $6,000 based on a video of trash. In any event, she didn't have a contract in hand that said he will deliver the stuff clean. She didn't pick it up. She wants her money back. That's
too hard to follow. Too hard to follow the cash.
Too hard to follow the cash. You're right.
Have you been cheated? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Ms. Taylor, I assume that this is your husband.
It is my husband.
And you're recently married. When were you married?
We're actually married October of 2019.
That must have been a small party.
Yeah, we actually got married at the courthouse.
But at some point, you were planning a larger wedding.
Right.
And in contemplation of that larger wedding, you hired Mr. Sanchez to be your wedding planner.
Decor.
Wedding decor planner.
Yes.
And this case is about the return of your deposit that you paid to him because the wedding was canceled because of COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's your general claim. But it gets a little more complicated than that. When was your wedding originally planned?
It was originally planned for September 19th of 2020.
Where was it supposed to take place?
In Downey at the Rio Hondo golf course.
How many people were you having?
150.
And how much was the venue?
13 and some change.
13,000,
sorry.
In what month did you secure the venue?
Maybe December to January of 2019 or 2020.
Fine, let's say January 2020. And when did you locate Mr. Sanchez?
In January.
Same time as you located the venue?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you sign a contract with him?
We did.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at it.
Okay.
Well, this says terms of the contract: decor, rentals, chocolate fountain, food.
No.
It says client will have food tasting to pick out and confirm the food for the event. Food service will include.
I think that's just his general standard contract, but all we had was the decor and rentals. The food and everything was coming from the venue itself.
Well, then I don't know what this is. Contract must be paid in full within 30 days before the event. For every week that passes without final payment, there's a $100 fee. I don't know what you signed here. There's no price.
Keep going. On the other few pages behind it, you'll see the breakdown of all the flowers, the rentals. At the bottom of the page, you'll see where the deposit was paid and the balance.
Actually, it's a ridiculous contract. Because if you're referring to an annex document, this doesn't say anything. This it calls for a deposit. What?
It's in the first page, and the one in the back is the first page, and then is the second page, and the other one is the last page.
Show me the contract, sir. Show me your copy of the contract.
This is how to be, like that.
Okay, it's still a ridiculous contract. I mean, it's just the way it's phrased is ridiculous. It's not filled out. Do you understand? Total deposit, it's blank. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is your DeAngelis Events, is that you?
DeAngelis Event, yes.
All right. Well, what I'm telling you is this has to be filled out.
It's because we do a lot of service, and she only asked for the flowers and for a decor.
Just a second. It has to be in a contract that she signed. I'm just telling you, for future reference, have the blank spaces filled in, the total charge, the amount of deposit. That should be in this contract. What's signed is sort of in blank. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, fine. So you hired him in January of 2020. The event was supposed to be September of 2020. That's 8 months later. Between January of 2020 and September of 2020, did you meet with the defendant?
We did. We initially go ahead.
Tell me the dates that you met with him.
So the first meeting was January 10th when we signed the actual contract.
Where did you meet with him?
He came to our home.
Okay.
We signed the contract that day.
Okay, but you had contacted him the beginning of January when you first took the hall, took the venue. And then you said, well, come to the house. We'll discuss exactly what you're going to do. He did. Did he show you any photographs, any pictures?
He did.
Okay, so that took a while. How long was he there?
He was at the house maybe no more than 2 hours for the initial meeting.
Just a second. He was there for 2 hours. And you must have been satisfied because you signed this contract.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was January 10th. When was the next time you saw him?
I don't know.
When was the next time you were there,
I
Mr.
saw
Sanchez,
him.
or the next time you saw the plaintiff?
After I went to her house, we went to the venue. It was February 25th.
You went to the venue with him?
Yes.
Okay, what did you do at the venue?
So when we went to the venue, we showed him the outdoor space and kind of our vision, and we talked through it and just talked about options and placement of flowers and just different options of draping and whatnot.
And about how long did that take?
Maybe about an hour as well.
It was more.
Did you see him again?
We saw him, or I saw him, I went alone, February 28th to do a mock setup.
Okay, and where did you do the...
Can I backtrack before then? So we were initially gonna get married in September. I contacted him literally 2 weeks after signing the contract to push the wedding up to March because my dad was diagnosed with cancer and we wanted to do it sooner rather than later.
You wanted to do it 6 months earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
You think you're entitled to $4,000 back. Well, what about all the time he spent with you?
I understand that time.
Just a second, I'm just asking you. He spent 5 to 6 hours with you. Is he not entitled to be compensated for that?
Kenesha Taylor claims wedding planner Carlos Sanchez wrongfully kept her deposit after a mandatory lockdown.
Okay, and venue was free.
Venue was free.
And he was free.
He was free.
So that you had to get moving faster.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now you contacted him. That I read and that I understood. So you contacted him again and things started to move a little more quickly because now he had less time.
Right.
And you met him again.
So the last
end
time
of
I
February.
actually saw him was February 28th.
Okay, on
when he did the mock setup.
Okay. And did he show you several different designs?
We did.
How many different designs did he
There
show
was
you?
2 actual tables that he set up, that he showed, and then in his showroom was the different options that he had
Well,
for.
just a second, did you go to his showroom?
I was at his showroom.
Did you go to the venue?
Not that day. We went to the venue once where we talked about, looking at the
But
scheme.
this time you went
I went to him.
And he set up 2 tables with 2 different options consistent with what your initial discussion was at the venue.
Right.
Okay. And you selected one.
Right. And that's when I gave him the second deposit of $3,000 that day.
Okay, so the first deposit was $1,000.
Yes.
Second deposit was $3,000.
Yes.
In total, you gave him $4,000, which is what you're suing for.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you think you're entitled to $4,000 back?
I think I'm entitled to $4,000 less the setup fee that he incurred, the actual fees that he incurred. That's what I was asking for.
Well, what about all the time he spent with you?
I understand that time.
Just a second, I'm just asking you. He spent with you probably at least 5 to 6 hours.
Okay.
In total, not including the setup fee that he did independently when you weren't there. He spent 5 to 6 hours with you and your husband. Is he not entitled to be compensated for that?
I would say yes.
Oh, yes.
But my question would be, again, it's not in the contract. I feel like he just kind of pulled a number out of the sky, just like he pulled a $500 contract fee out of the sky. Like, that was nowhere discussed. That was just kind of something he...
It's not discussed because nobody anticipated that if you were supposed to be married in mid-March...
Well, late March, but yeah.
Late March. And on March 15th, the state was shut down and you couldn't have a wedding. The venue itself hadn't done anything for you other than hold the date.
And a tasting. We did a tasting with the venue as well, but yeah.
You did a tasting?
With the venue.
Did they charge you for that?
They did not.
Did they give you back your full deposit?
Yes, ma'am.
That was very nice of them. Did you have a wedding there ultimately?
We did not.
Well, it was very nice of them. They did a tasting. It's a big operation, but there's a certain amount of work that he performed. How do I explain this to you? If you go to see a dentist and the dentist is performing a whole procedure to put in a crown, in order to do that, there are procedures. They have to first sometimes do a root canal, then they may have to shave down a tooth, and let's say the patient dies before they can get the crown put in. Does that mean that the dentist doesn't get paid for all the work that they did?
No, absolutely not. They'll bill.
Okay.
I get it.
So he did work. And what you want to do is you want to put a value on his hourly time. You're employed?
I am.
Are you paid by week, every 2 weeks, by the hour?
I'm a salaried employee, but I get paid every 2 weeks.
Okay. And how much do you make approximately per hour?
About $70 an hour.
And what kind of work does your husband do?
He works for the oil refinery.
And is he a salaried employee bi-weekly or is he by the hour?
He's hourly.
And what's his hourly wage?
He makes about $45, $50 an hour.
How much do you make an hour so you know exactly?
42.
So here you have 2 people. You make $70 an hour. He makes 42. There are lawyers who charge $600 an hour for their work. And there are lawyers who charge $1,500 for their work. They're both lawyers. You're allowed to set a rate. Once this contract is no longer in existence and there's an impossibility, in this case, it's not your fault or his fault. It became an issue of impossibility of performance. And then it's up to us to try to find a reasonable, since it's impossible for either one of you to perform ultimately the contract, he's entitled to be paid for the work that he actually did for you. That seems only reasonable and fair, and that would come under a theory of quantum merit. How much is it worth? So how much did he offer you as a refund?
$2,940.
Is what he gave you back?
No, he gave me nothing back. This is what he offered me in the form of a coupon.
Just a second. He offered you $2,940 back, which means that he was charging you $1,000 in effect for all the hours that he spent in the work that he did.
Not necessarily. It was a breakdown. So the deduction was $500 contract fee that he implemented. It was 4 hours of his time, times $70 per hour. And then for the actual setup, it was $280 that he was actually out of pocket for the setup that he did on the 28th. And so the $29.40, again, wasn't even in the form of a refund. He said these were coupons that could be used back in his business at 3 different times.
If he offered you $29.40, that would seem to be a reasonable figure if he offered you $29.40 back in cash, because you paid him in check.
Right.
Do you understand that, sir? That would seem to be reasonable.
I understand.
Okay. Where are the contracts with the table companies, the chair companies?
They are my tables.
Oh, then you're not entitled to that. Is not an answer. I want to know what else you did. If you did something else, tell me.
Kenesha Taylor is accusing wedding planner Carlos Sanchez of keeping her deposit. Carlos says Kenesha refused his offer to reschedule the wedding.
If he offered you $29.40, that would seem to be a reasonable figure if he offered you $29.40 back in cash, because you paid him in check.
Right.
Do you understand that, sir?
I understand. I offer her a credit for...
No, we're not a credit. You were out your time, and whatever actual money that you spent setting up the tables and showing her what the venue might look like, you're entitled to that. But no one knows how long COVID is going to impede the ability of someone to have indoor gatherings. So you are unable by law to perform this contract. Do you understand? Yes. You're unable by law to perform this contract. She is unable to do her part and pay you to perform this contract. So in my judgment, you are entitled to a certain amount of compensation for the work that you did. The venue, with the exception of giving them a tasting dinner, did nothing. It didn't buy food. It didn't spend any time with them other than the initial showing the venue. And venue, you signed the papers, and then you went for a tasting. And it opened itself up so that he could come in and look at the venue, which is nothing. They were out no money. They bought nothing. They really didn't spend a lot of time with you other than they would with any customer, just as the first time you spoke to him. The second time he came to your house when you discussed things and he spent 2 hours there, he's entitled to be compensated for that. And you're compensated at the rate of $70 an hour, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say he's entitled to be compensated the same as you are. Reasonable? 6 times 7 is $420.
So wait, Judge, but he said 4 hours. In the initial one, he said he only spent 4 hours with me, and that was in his reply to me.
I'd like to see it. Even you said he spent 5 hours with you.
It was a rough guesstimate.
Well, what I'm telling you, you said you spent 5. Okay. So you made flower samples?
Yes.
Representatives times $70 an hour. Look at that. Times 4 is $280, and the flowers were $190. And want to tell me what company contract means of $500?
All that paperwork obviously reserved the tables, the letters, and also the flowers.
Well, show me.
Yes.
Show me. You already have the flowers down here.
Yes.
As $190. You're getting credit for that. So far, we're to $470.
And
I'd like to see what you did to reserve. Where are the contracts with the table companies, the chair companies?
They are my tables.
Oh, then you're not entitled to that, sir.
No. Well, okay. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay. When she canceled it because for the COVID, it wasn't.
No, she didn't cancel it because of COVID. The contract that you rendered was unenforceable by law. It was unenforceable. Based upon her figure, it was a little bit more than 4 hours that you spent with her. But you're not entitled to making a contract with yourself. I mean, if you engaged in contract negotiations with other vendors for chairs or anything else, I would consider that. But so far, you didn't. So the contract was unenforceable, and based upon your own statement to her, the time that you spent was 4 hours. You're entitled to that at $70 an hour, which is exactly what you earn. And the flowers that you put together were $190. So that together is $470, and therefore you should return to her $3,630. Is not an answer.
No.
I want to know what else you did. If you did something else, tell me.
We make sure that table and the letters that she wants for her table, and also...
Those are your things, you said to me. That's your property.
But we didn't sell it to another person because
You couldn't
we already
sell it.
have...
You couldn't
we didn't
sell
rent
it.
it. We didn't rent it.
You couldn't sell it or rent it to another person because everything else was closed after March. Everything else was closed. You couldn't rent them to anybody else?
Of course, no.
Of course not. Okay. The cancellation of these events wrought havoc on the venue business for well over a year, probably still is. As I said, you're entitled to be compensated, and I certainly would not give her back $4,000 because that would sort of be like her missing a week's pay if they closed the plant where she was working. And she would say, well, I was here, I'm ready to do my job. And the plant would say, listen, this is COVID, but I actually came to work every day. I drove there every day. I did work from home. I expended time. She would want to be paid. You're entitled to be paid. But by your own analysis, what you're entitled to be paid was $370. And so she gets her deposit back, less that $370. Thank you, we're finished.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
I'm happy. I agree with her. I think it was very fair.
I don't think it's fair. Everything with the COVID, our company, it was very difficult. And
I tried. I sent texts, I sent emails. I had a lawyer send a demand letter to try and resolve it before we got here, to no resolve, but I'm happy.
To get back money right now is very difficult for our company and obviously myself.
Time to live happily ever after now.
I'm gonna change that contract to be more clear.
So although it wasn't my best class in all of law school, one thing I do remember from contracts is the importance of a force majeure clause, where it allocates the risk of loss if something unexpected happens at no fault of either party. And in this case, they really could have benefited from a clause such as that because they could have stated who was going to pay, what the refund was going to be, how much she was compensated for time if the wedding did not end up happening. So I think that it's important that you really review your contracts before signing them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't actually think of force majeure, but that's exactly what it is. It's a major force that precludes either party from performing the terms of the contract and defining what their responsibility is, if any, if something prevents the contract from going forward. Interesting.
Have you been cheated? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Court come to order.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 1180, Ziegler versus Simpson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ziegler, this is what I put together from your complaint. You were looking for a place to live. You had no place to live.
Yes.
Mr. Simpson has a house, and in that house, he rents rooms. He has a lot of tenants. It's a house that you own, is that correct?
Yes,
And you've owned it for how long, sir?
30 years.
Okay. Now, he agreed to rent you a space. He didn't have a bedroom, but rented you a space, at least temporarily, at the beginning of July.
Yes, July 1st.
And you lived there for approximately 4 weeks.
I got kicked out on August 6th.
So 5 weeks.
Yes.
You claim two things, that he, A, illegally evicted you, so you want a lot of money for that. And your second cause of action is that you drive a motorcycle, and that Mr. Simpson allowed one of the other tenants, someone whose name is Todd, that would be you, to drive his truck. And Todd knocked over your bike that was parked behind the truck,
Correct.
causing some damage to the bike. Now, you lived in the house for 5 weeks, and would you stand up? Your first name is Todd. What's your last name?
On Moberly.
Mr. Moberly, you acknowledge that you knocked over the motorcycle. The defense to that Mr. Simpson is raising is that Mr. Ziegler had parked his motorcycle behind the truck, but parked it on the sidewalk instead of parking it someplace else. And I assume you have photographs of that, Mr. Simpson. I
Yeah, we
assume
have
you have
pictures
photographs
of
of
the
that.
driveway from
Did you? So I'm going to ask Mr. Ziegler. What time of the day did this happen on August 6th?
This happened late at night, probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Where had you been? No, that's a question. That's not a so. Where had you been
I
prior
went to the store for 5 minutes and came back.
Just a second. You took your motorcycle. Where had your motorcycle been parked?
So the driveway would
Where had your motorcycle been parked
Behind the
before
Tahoe.
you left?
right behind the Tahoe.
Then you moved it.
I never moved the motorcycle, no.
You said this incident happened at 8:30. I want you to try to concentrate, Mr. Ziegler. I said, where were you before this incident happened at 8:30? You said, I went to the store for 5 minutes. Before you went to the store, where was the motorcycle parked?
Behind the Tahoe, on the driveway, in the driveway.
And then when you came back from the store, you parked in the same place.
I actually drove my car to the store, not my bike. And I left my bike behind the Tahoe.
Where was your car parked?
On the side of the street, since the driveway was completely full.
So your car was parked in the street, in a legal parking space.
Yes.
You left the bike where it was. You took the car from a legal parking space because the driveway was full. You went to the store for 5 minutes, 8:30, then you came back. Did you repark your car?
No, I parked it still on the side of the street where I had it before, where I always parked it.
Okay. And you went to the store to get what?
To get a Gatorade.
When you came home from getting the Gatorade, you just went to the store to get one Gatorade.
Yes, because I was
Just
on a...
you were thirsty. When you came home, what did you see?
I saw my bike on the ground and Todd trying to pick it up.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Did you pick the bike up?
I tried to. It's a little heavy, and so he came.
Did you pick the bike up?
Yes.
What did you do with it?
I moved it away from the back and I put it kind of in the garage, in a little space in the garage.
How did you get it there?
I picked the bike up myself and brought it into the garage. I didn't drive it or
Oh,
anything.
just a second. You picked it up and you walked it into the garage.
Yes.
Just